Hey everybody, Erick Landon here again, and welcome to my part 2 of my top 10 forgotten JRPGs. I'm gonna leave part 1 at the end of the video so you don't miss it. And like I said in the first video, the point of these videos is to make people remember these games because they just don't deserve to be forgotten. I mean, whether they're good games or bad games, it's always a matter of perspective. I mean, some of these games might be good to you, some of these games might be terrible to other people, who knows, right? So, with that said and with that clarified, let's begin again. Number 10, The Legend of Dragoon. The only reason I put this game in the list is because a lot of people requested it. I don't consider this to be a forgotten JRPG, at least not by everyone who played it. I think it's a true classic and a great game for its generation. Tons of people remember it so well that it feels kinda off for it to be on the list, doesn't it? Too bad Sony, the company who made it, unlike us, has completely forgotten about it, and it actually did back when it came out. It's like they don't give a damn about it anymore. They also promised a sequel that never saw the light. Maybe the sales didn't meet their expectations? Who knows? The point is that The Legend of Dragoon is a forgotten game by the people who made it. Number 9 is Vagrant Story. Another classic, but this time I think it's a little forgotten. Maybe not that much, which is why I put it in number 9, but still. Anyways, this game is a cult classic, with many fans, but it feels as if the more time passes by, the more people start forgetting about it. If somebody asks you for PS1 RPGs, you rarely remember Vagrant Story, unless it's one of your favorite games. It's an action RPG with dark tones and obscure atmospheres with a very unique battle system. It was developed by Squaresoft. To be honest, I'm not really a fan of this one, but I acknowledge the impression it left in the history of gaming. Too bad it's starting to fade away from many people's memories. Number 8, Magna Carta Tears of Blood. If you watch my Hidden Gems video for the PS2, you will see this game. You will not see Magna Carta 2 for the Xbox 360 because I don't think it's as good as the first one, and very ironically, it's starting to be more famous. I have no idea why. I mean, Magna Carta 2 is still a good game, but like I said, just not as good. As time goes by, people forget there was this awesome jewel of a game with a unique battle system, solid and tragic story, deep narrative, and, well, a huge ton of fan service. The point is that Magna Carta is a great game. People cherish it back then, but now it's like nobody remembers it unless somebody brings it up in a conversation or a Facebook post or Twitter or a top 10 like mine. Number 7 are the Devil Summoners, the Raidu series. This is yet another pair of games that I put in my Hidden Gems video. From all the Shin Megami Tensei games that made it out of Japan and came into our territory, I believe the Devil Summoner series is the most unknown. The first one, for the Sega Saturn, unfortunately was never released outside Japan. The second one is Soul Hackers. We got the Nintendo 3DS port, the only English version available, a very underrated game. Then it's the Raidu Kusunoha series that only spanned 2 games. When they came out, they were probably pretty popular. But time went on and people began forgetting about them. Probably because it was around that time when Atlus started bringing more and more Shin Megami Tensei games into North America. Therefore, they were overshadowed by other more successful titles, which is so sad because they are 2 great additions to the SMT series. Right, next is Wild Arms XF for the PSP. A lot of people remember the Wild Arms series, but many people either missed this one or ignored it. I think it's because of two reasons. First, it was a spin-off. I mean, it didn't have a number in the title like all the other Wild Arms, but instead got the letters XF, which means Crossfire. And second, because it failed. That's right. It didn't do any good at all in reviews because it was now completely a strategy RPG. And a very hard one, mind you. Also, it had several issues in both the battle system and the gameplay, making it sometimes unnecessarily complicated, unfriendly, or even unfair at certain missions. So it was forgotten because of that, and it almost took the entire series into its own oblivion because it was the very last Wild Arms to be made. Mana Khemia 2 Fall of Alchemy. Sure, a lot of people remember the first Mana Khemia and its port to the PSP, both versions of the game released in North America. I've even seen fans talking about these versions, whether it's the PS2 or the PSP one. But I have rarely seen anyone discussing the second game, which I thought was even better than the first one. It's a game that's divided in two stories by two different protagonists. Many of the missions, scenes, boss battles, and so on are actually entirely different from each other. But nope, the PSP port of this game was never released outside Japan. And the PS2 version that made it was the last JRPG developed for that console, which I think might be the reason people forgot all about it. A real shame though, since it is a very good game, with a very addicting gameplay, much better than the first Mana Khemia. But that's just my opinion. Number 4 is Shining Force Neo for the PS2. Actually, I was going to put Shining Force AXA instead of Neo, or EXA, but I believe EXA has gained more reminiscence thanks to Project Cross Zone, because the two protagonists are playable characters there. Even so, I think both Shining Force games for the PS2 are forgotten, but particularly Neo. Now, the reasons behind the fact for it being so forgotten may be due to the fact that it sold poorly, that it was panned by critics, etc. The usual stuff. I agree. I didn't like this game at all. I liked EXA, but not this one. I thought the story was boring, the battle system very unfair, very dull, and the gameplay itself very uninspiring. So whether this game truly deserves to stay forgotten will be, of course, totally up to you. Number 3 is Lufia, The Legend Returns. How ironic that this game is the sequel to the famous, classic and well-remembered Lufia 2. Did the developer screw up by releasing the third entry in this series for a handheld console? It just so happens that many titles that start on TV consoles often fail when their next entry appears on a portable system. Lufia The Legend Returns is no exception to this. I am actually very surprised it made it to North America, considering all the background the project had. As to terms of gameplay, the game is not as good as the previous Lufia, but it's still a fun adventure and a decent third part, with almost all the classic Lufia elements. Nevertheless, it received mixed reviews where critics disputed the new battle system and the fact that it was released for the Game Boy Color instead for the Super Nintendo. And of course, the next title in this list had to be Lufia, The Ruins of Lore. Yes, in case you didn't know, there was a fourth and sadly final title for the series. There was a remake of the second game for the Nintendo DS, but after that, the series died. The irony here is that this game, even though it's a spin-off and not a sequel to the third game, gained many positive reviews. In terms of gameplay and battle system, the series returned to the original setup. So what happened to the series after this? Why didn't they release a new title? And most importantly, why was this game forgotten? It may be because it was the last original entry in the series, or because it was a spin-off, or because once again it was for a handheld console. You know, spin-offs are okay when they are released in portable systems, usually, so this game should have been a success, right? Did it drag the failure of the previous title along with it, and that's why it was forgotten? I have no idea. Finally on number 1, Kudelka for the PS1. Kudelka was a poor attempt to mix survival horror with a strategy RPG. But I still like the game. Being number 1 on this list requires a very good reason for an explanation, right? Well, first and foremost, I just can't talk about Kudelka without mentioning the fact that it was the precursor to the Shadow Heart series for the PS2. They aren't that much related, but the idea of making a dark game that followed a timeline starting in the late 19th century and closing after the First World War was executed throughout the 4 games. However, the reason Kudelka was forgotten is not only because it received mixed to negative criticism, but also because it was ironically overshadowed by the Shadow Heart series. Another fact to take into consideration is the very poor marketing the game received, making it also overshadowed by other different titles, many of them. And finally, mixing 2 genres without clarification to the public broke any possibility of being a successful RPG. Therefore, it stands sadly forgotten through the winds of time. Okay guys, that's it. As usual, I want to thank you for watching my video. I hope you subscribe and share the video with your friends so I can continue to grow as a channel and continue to grow as a community with you people. So whether these games deserve to be forgotten or not, that is totally up to you. I just wanted to show them to you so you can remember these games. Or if you didn't even know them, that's better, right? Maybe you can go and play these games and have an opinion of your own. Whatever. So thank you for watching. See you next time.